The movie kicks off with a troublemaking kid named Theo. He usually got out of doing his homework by bribing others with video games. Instead of using the front door, he'd climb a pipe and sneak into his room through the window. One day, while eating a banana on the roof, he casually tossed the peel down. Out of nowhere, a portal opened and the peel vanished into thin air. When Theo didn't hear it hit the ground, he looked back in confusion and checked below. Nothing. Curious, he dropped his roller skate, and it disappeared too. Shocked, he tried tossing a rock, which also vanished. He ran to tell his older brother Oscar about the strange portal. Since their parents were gone, they lived with their grandma. Oscar was already upset with Theo for tearing pages out of their mom's books to make paper rockets. Theo tried to explain he'd found a time portal, but Oscar assumed he was just being annoying again. Their mom had mysteriously vanished years ago. Theo thought maybe she just ran off with someone. Oscar, though, believed she was a genius scientist looking into time portals and had gotten trapped in another era. He was determined to decode her research and bring her back. The two brothers kept arguing. When Grandma called them for dinner, they calmed down in front of her. But once she left, the fight picked right back up. In anger, Oscar cursed at Theo, and Theo, furious, tossed Oscar's pet turtle into the portal. Oscar searched everywhere for the turtle and ended up putting up missing posters. He was heartbroken and cried over losing him. Feeling guilty, Theo considered jumping into the portal to fix it all. When he did, he landed in a place where all the things he'd thrown into the portal had collected. The turtle was there, safe and sound. Theo brought him home, put him back quietly, and went to bed. But the next morning, things were really strange. Theo was still asleep, but Oscar was already up, and much older. Theo had actually time-traveled from 1990 to 2022. In the future, Oscar had become a physics professor. That same day, Oscar stopped by a store run by a man named David. Later, David's daughter, Alina, arrived. She and Oscar had been close since childhood. Oscar had a crush on her growing up, but never said anything. Alina was divorced and had 2 kids. Oscar still had a thing for her. She worked at the same university as an English professor. Meanwhile, Theo woke up and went searching for Oscar, carrying the turtle with him. He found Grandma, but she was now so old she didn't recognize him. When Oscar saw Theo, he was so stunned he fainted. When he came to, Oscar asked, "Is that really you, Theo?" Theo was just as confused. "Who are you and how do you know my name?" he asked. Oscar replied, "I'm your big brother." Theo was stunned. "How'd you get so old in just one day?" After talking, they realized Theo had somehow landed in 2022. They remembered their old fight about tearing up their mom's notes. Theo even showed Oscar a photo of her in a red dress. Now, Theo just wanted to return to 1992. He was afraid Grandma would scold him for being late. He went back to the roof to try jumping through the portal again, but when he tossed down a rock, it didn't vanish. The portal had closed. Theo didn't get how the portal could just stop working. Oscar explained that time travel doesn't always work both ways. Just because you came through one portal doesn't mean it'll take you back. They realized they'd need to locate a different portal to return to 1990. While trying to figure this out, Oscar brought Theo to meet his senior professor. The professor explained that even though science had come a long way by 2022, time portals weren't scientifically possible. Hearing that, the brothers left, still determined. Theo was totally blown away by the modern world. When he saw Oscar's smartphone, he asked what it was. Oscar told him it was a phone, but you didn't need to dial numbers like the old ones. He told Theo to stay calm and reminded him their main goal was finding the portal. "Don't you want to go back to 1990? Oscar asked. That's when Theo mentioned he had found a handwritten list in their mom's stuff while ripping out pages for his rockets. He'd hidden it inside a dictionary just to bug Oscar, and it might hold some clues. They asked Grandma about the dictionary, and she told them she had given it to David. The next day, Oscar told Theo he was heading to David's and told him to stay home, but Theo sneaked out and went to a massive mall. He was amazed by all the gadgets and ended up breaking a VR headset while playing with it. Oscar got called to the mall and had to pay for the damages. He scolded Theo for not following instructions, and they both went to David's store to find the dictionary. David said it was at his house. Just then, Alina walked in. Theo was stunned by how beautiful she looked. Alina asked, "Who's this kid, and how does he know my name?" Oscar quickly made up a story, saying Theo was his cousin's kid. He changed the topic, and Alina invited them over to her place. Her son and daughter were playing video games. Theo was amazed and jumped in to play with her son, Zen.
De eso nada, digo Armando.
De hoy no pasa.
Nos vamos.
Back at home, Theo and Oscar started digging into the mystery. On the roof, Oscar explained that the list mentioned several portal locations. They tested those places by throwing objects, but nothing happened. Oscar figured he'd messed up the math and started recalculating everything. Meanwhile, Theo kept pestering him. Why are you always alone? Why don't you have friends? And why haven't you told Alina how you feel? Oscar, still focused, said that even if Alina was divorced, he didn't think it would ever work out. Without telling Oscar, Theo grabbed his phone and texted David, Alina, and her kids, inviting them for dinner. When they all showed up, Oscar was stunned. Theo admitted he'd called everyone over, and Oscar understood it was another one of his tricks. During the gathering, Oscar and Alina bonded more. The next day, Alina took Theo shopping for new clothes. While in the fitting room, Theo started his usual goofy football commentary. That moment triggered a memory for Alina, and she realized he had to be the same little Theo, Oscar's younger brother. She hugged him and asked how he hadn't aged after all these years. Theo told her he'd jumped through a time portal that brought him straight from 1990 to 2022. Alina was shocked, but the truth was standing right there in front of her. To prove it, she asked Oscar. He tossed a rock off the roof, and it bounced right back, showing a time portal had opened. Oscar explained that there were 3 types of portals. The first kind lets you go straight from one time to another. The second kind is unpredictable. You could end up anywhere. The third kind is really dangerous because there's no way out. Theo had used the first kind to reach 2022. Now they had to find the correct portal to send him back to 1990. Everyone began researching together, and Oscar secretly loved how often Alina came by. He'd even dance around when no one was watching. The two of them began searching for the right portal together. But Alina had mixed feelings. She didn't want Theo to return to 1990, worried that changing the past could mess up their future. Her kids might never exist, and she loved them more than anything. Oscar promised that Theo going back wouldn't change her life. He'd make sure her future stayed the same. They discussed ways to protect both timelines. Then Theo had a big idea. He wanted to decode the coordinates from their mom's notes. He got help from Alina's kids, figuring that if they helped him return to the past, their future must already be set, because if they didn't exist, they never could have helped him in the first place. The 3 of them used a map to track a shortcut that Theo believed led to a time portal. He was convinced it would take him back to 1990. Full of excitement, Theo jumped into the ocean at the beach, and Brenda and Nathan had no choice but to follow him in. When they reached the shore, they were stunned. The city they came from had vanished, replaced by nothing but mountains. That meant the city hadn't even been built yet. They had definitely traveled to the past, but instead of 1990, they ended up in 1949. Stuck in an unfamiliar time, the 3 kids tried to piece together what had gone wrong. They had used the second type of portal, the one that sends you to a random time. Back in 2022, a panicked Alina called Oscar and told him Theo and the kids had disappeared. Oscar guessed they might have found the 1990 portal. Now he and Alina had to follow them to bring them back. In 1949, the kids had no cash, their phones didn't work, and they were all starving. That's when Brenda and Nathan came up with a plan. They could turn their gadgets into a mind-reading magic show. Nathan sat a little ways off while Brenda closed her eyes. Theo stood by a board, writing names. Using wireless earbuds, Nathan whispered the names to Brenda, and to the crowd, it looked like pure magic. How is she saying the names without seeing them? The audience was amazed and cheered. They earned some money, but the local police noticed. Performing in public without permission was illegal. As soon as Theo spotted the police coming, he gave a signal and the 3 kids bolted. But while escaping, a stranger grabbed them and took them to an unknown location, putting them in even more danger. Meanwhile, in 2022, Oscar and Alina finally located the entrance to the 1990 portal. They held hands and jumped through it. Alina felt like she was in a dream as she traveled through time. In 1990, missing posters of Theo were everywhere. Back in 1949, the man who had snatched the kids brought them to a rebel gang. The gang leader demanded to know why the kids were there. The man said the kids knew their secret signal. Theo, confused, asked, "What secret signal?" The man said it was the whistle Theo used to warn the others when the police showed up. Grandma had taught Theo that whistle. Suddenly, a young woman from the gang appeared. and Theo realized it was his grandma in her youth. She had learned the whistle from the gang. Theo didn't tell anyone she was his grandma. They'd think he was nuts, but he hugged her tightly anyway. This group wasn't dangerous. Though they opposed the government, they were trying to help people, so the kids were safe. For now. In 1990, Oscar and Alina were searching the house for Theo, but it was empty. Suddenly, they heard someone and hid in the closet. It was young Oscar, crying about Theo being gone. Seeing his younger self heartbroken, present-day Oscar felt crushed. Back in 1949, the kids were slowly adjusting to life with the gang. Theo didn't struggle much thanks to having his young grandma around. One day, Theo asked her to take a picture with him and told her, "Promise me no matter what, keep this photo safe, even when you grow old. Frame it." This action caused the photo frame in 1990 to suddenly change. Now Theo, Brenda, and Nathan were in the picture with her. Theo also wrote the coordinates of the time portal on the back of that photo in 1949 to help Oscar and Alina find them in 1990. Oscar and Alina realized they needed to return to 2022 first in order to use the right portal to get to 1949. So they jumped back to 2022, then followed the coordinates Theo had left to arrive in 1949. There, Theo had told the gang that his brother Oscar would come for them. 2 gang members were already waiting. When they whistled the tune Grandma had taught, Oscar responded with the same exact whistle. After that, Oscar and Alina were taken to Grandma's rebel group. Alina was overjoyed to see her kids safe and sound, but Theo didn't want to leave. He was actually loving life in 1949. That really hurt Oscar. He said, "Sure, we argue, but that doesn't mean I don't care." He didn't want to lose his little brother again. "You have no idea how long I cried thinking about you after you disappeared," Oscar told him. Just then, their young grandma showed up. Oscar was stunned to see her, but kept quiet. They all needed to find a way back to 2022, so one of the gang members offered to drive them. That man turned out to be Oscar and Theo's grandpa. Eventually, they reached the portal that would take them back to 2022. Once there, Oscar got ready to send Theo back to 1990 using the construction site portal they had previously found. But Theo didn't want to go. He felt like he had no one in 1990. "I want to stay with you. You kind of remind me of Dad," he said. Oscar hugged him tight and told him the Oscar in 1990 was really lonely too. He needed Theo there. Even though it was hard, Theo went back to 1990. Oscar was thrilled to have him home. And their grandma gave him tons of love. When she asked where he'd been, Theo made up a story about being kidnapped by a gang. Meanwhile, Oscar was heartbroken and confused over Theo's sudden return. He started to believe their mom had really abandoned them. Upset, he began tearing up her books. But Theo stepped in and told him the full truth about time traveling, and even showed him the phone from 2022. Oscar didn't totally buy the story, but once he saw the phone, he couldn't explain it away either. The 2 brothers promised never to use the portal again and chose to focus on being happy in the moment. Now back in 2022, Oscar and Theo were living together. When the doorbell rang, Theo teased Oscar, saying it must be his girlfriend, Alina. He told Oscar to finally tell her how he felt. She was divorced now. Theo had kept that from Oscar on purpose because if he had told him earlier, Alina's kids may never have been born. He'd promised not to mess up her timeline, but now the timing was right. Her kids existed and the divorce was done. Oscar opened the door, and there was Alina. From here, their story could finally move forward. Then, the scene cut to an ancient time. A portal opened, and a woman stepped out. This was a very old era, where people had no idea what science even was. That woman? She was none other than Oscar and Theo's mom, and that's where the story ends. So what do you think? Should Theo have pushed Oscar to speak up sooner? Maybe things would have turned out differently, and they'd all have lived happily ever after. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.